So did you make a decision at that point that you're going to pay attention and find the tiniest little slip up?
I already was, but I was not actively focusing on him. I was doing my own agenda.
Right.
And it was working.
Being responsible for Rome.
Yes, and that was working, and everyone started more or less accepting me, not only as my own person, but as, a leader. And I also thought at the time that comparing me to another leader who was at the same time ruling would be a good way of also dethroning him.
Well, but he was in Egypt, and he was out of sight, out of mind. So really...
Yes, and however, at the time, when that happened, I saw red.
Wow. So can you talk about... What was the shifting point? Because we all know what happened with the Battle of Actium. That led to his downfall and his suicide and everything like that. How was that the definitive shift of... He's crossed the line, what was it about that? Was it because he aligned himself with something of an empire? The Egypt was you were kind of in that uneasy alliance, and he lined himself up with Cleopatra and brought ships against Rome, to consolidate power using the might of another country. I mean, how did the Battle of Actium really come about in your favor as opposed to his favor? Was it because
I told the military that he had betrayed us, and they took it as an offense? Because if someone you trust, that who's supposed to be for Rome at all times, comes back to invade it with another country, that is beyond dishonorable or disgraceful.
Right.
And they took it as an offense to not only Rome, but they took it as offense to themselves, to their commanders, to their even families. So they wanted his head, and I would have given it to him. However,
it's good that you didn't, I guess. And that time's...
He knew I was coming for him, so he, at the time, committed suicide.
And was it viewed as an act of dishonor not because he was defeated, but because he took his own life? I mean, what was the attitude of suicide then? Because here it's looked on completely different. Unnecessary, and you're giving up type of thing. But back then it was what?
Back then, it has multiple meanings. One, you're throwing yourself at the mercy of the gods. You do suicide because you know that your judgment is coming, and you wish to give yourself up for it before you added anything else incriminating.
Wow.
Or, in a case for a leader, is that you were never meant to rule, and that you were weak. And he weighed that option of being remembered as such, then facing me. And he must have took the suicide because he feared me more than the gods themselves.
So maybe that was a sense of, okay, if I do this, then maybe I can find some redemption, outside of being in the body. I don't know, because you wouldn't have been his redeemer, would you?
No.
Wow.
But of course, looking back at it now, you're like, I was rather angry.
Let's talk about that anger. I mean, how does one live a life where expectations are coming at you from all points of approach? So I'm imagining you as you are evolving into the leader of the Roman Empire, even towards the end of your life when you had Pax Romana, peace and economic and security and political security, but you were still always at the center of the military is at this side, the republic is now gone away, is now you're at the head of a society, but then you've got the people and you've got your empire to manage. You're bringing in resources and you're responsible for the livelihoods of millions of people, so they're not starving, that they're entertained, that they're kept, in a state of mind where they're supporting and growing. Here we have the internet, and we have instant news, instant communications, instant shifts. But back then, your communication only went as far as the Roman roads all across the empire, and the amount of time it took to travel and communicate across it. How do you manage an empire of 70 million it was up to by the time you had left the body? That is a lot of people. How do you do that as one person?
You have to trust the others who were involved. Otherwise, you can't do anything.
Yeah, but wasn't there always a betrayal? Thought of betrayal, sedition?
Yes, but I'm not the only one who would rise against them if they did do a betrayal. So it's more of a checks and balances sort of thing. Because the body attacks what doesn't benefit it. So in the same way, Rome would do the same back then. If I wasn't the one to remove, the head of, someone else might have.